Hello my dear friends and welcome to Study IQ. I am Joycey Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about India's issue with increasing current account deficit and lower inflation rate. We will discuss how India will sustain its high growth with the lower levels of inflation and increasing current account deficit. Now coming to the current affair, in the recent past, India is going through a phase of decreasing or lower inflation rates. And along with this is the increasing current account deficit. So in this situation, it is important to introduce supply side policies in order to stimulate growth in the economy. So we will discuss this issue in detail in this lecture. But before we begin, this is our channel Study IQ and we are providing pen drive courses for various competitive exams including SSC bank courses, UPSC optionals, SSC JEE courses, teaching courses, railway examinations, defense examinations, RBI grade B, NABARD grade A, UGC NET, UPSC civil services examination, CLAT exams, and for various state PSCs and also for various professional courses. You can visit our website www.studyiq.com for more details, or you can call to any of these numbers for more information. Now coming back to the topic, let us understand what are the concerns for India. One major concern is the decrease in output, or output is below the potential. This is because large number of people enter the labor force and the potential output is not being generated in the economy. And along with this is the bottlenecks in many sectors in Indian economy, and this bottlenecks can be structural bottlenecks or policy bottlenecks which will limit the production or which will impact the production in these sectors and also exports from these sectors, and this will lead to underutilization of the labor capacity. So underutilization of labor capacity will lead to production lesser than the potential, and this will lead to lesser output. And along with this is higher demand. So the demand in the Indian economy remains higher. It means aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. So supply is not enough in order to meet the domestic demand. So when the domestic supply is not able to meet the domestic demand, what will happen? This will lead to rise of imports. So we will have to depend on import of commodities in order to meet the aggregate demand in the domestic economy. So this will lead to current account deficit. So if the local supply or the domestic supply cannot meet the domestic demand, it will give rise to increase in imports, which will increase the current account deficit of the economy. Now, what is current account deficit? It is the value of goods and services of imports exceeds that of exports. So, when imports are higher than exports, we call it as current account deficit, and it is a component or a part of the balance of payment. So, these are the major issues or concerns in the economy. And now, let us understand how did China deal with a similar situation. So China also had a similar situation in their past, and how did Chinese economy dealt with such a situation. Now the beginning or the base of all the problems or the concerns in Indian economy is due to the larger availability of workforce or labor force availability, and the economy is not able to provide enough job opportunities for the labor force that are existing in the economy, which leads to output or production below the potential. So it is important to generate jobs, but China also had a similar situation where they had a labor surplus. So what did they do in the situation to deal with it? So we will understand that the first policy adopted by China in that situation was undervaluation of their currency. So what does undervaluation mean? So undervaluation means that the economy itself, by conscious efforts, the value of the currency will be brought down. So the opposite is depreciation. Depreciation means that the value of a currency undergoes a reduction in the value because of a lack of demand for the currency. So this is based on market forces of demand and supply. So if demand for a particular currency goes down, this will lead to depreciation of the currency. But on the other hand, devaluation or undervaluation of a currency means that the government or the policy makers, monetary policy makers of the economy consciously will undervalue the currency or bring down the value of the currency. So what happens with undervaluation? With undervaluation, the exports will increase because exports become cheaper. So when exports become cheaper, the quantum of exports will increase. So in order to increase the exports, definitely the output or the production in the economy must increase. So with this increase in output or production, the companies or the industries or different sectors in the economy will expand, and this expanded sectors of the economy can absorb the excess labor. So the Chinese economy adopted a policy of undervaluation. So the cycle is like this: undervaluation of currency means lesser value for the currency, and this will lead to increase in the exports, and in order to increase the exports, the production or the output has to expand, and in order to expand the output or the production, the industries or the sectors must expand, and this expansion will lead to labor absorption. So this was the strategy of China's economy, and it also concentrated on increasing the agricultural productivity in the economy. So ensuring agricultural productivity meant that the inflation rates were stable or low. So volatile items are mostly fuel and food. So the prices of food and fuel can change very soon. So stability in prices of food should come from agricultural productivity. So stable productivity or output in agriculture will ensure stable prices for the agricultural produce. So to ensure sustained level or low levels of inflation growth, Chinese economy also concentrated on agricultural productivity. And the third component under their policy was the oil imports. So slowly China lowered the share of oil imports. So this helped China in order to contain their current account deficit. So on one hand, it tried to increase the exports, and on the other hand, it reduced the exports. So current account deficit is basically the excess of imports over the exports. So when exports increases and when imports comes down, current account deficit will narrow down. So China adopted a strategy where exports increased and imports decreased, and finally this led to a phase where Chinese economy had a current account surplus. That means net exports are higher than the net imports. Now coming to the challenges for India. India has a dual challenge. One is increase in the import bill. The imports of country is increasing, which means that the current account deficit of the country is widening. Now, second challenge is lower rates of inflation. So we will discuss each one by one. The first one, increase in import bills. So India is dependent on imports for its oil consumption or energy requirements, and India is the third largest oil importer. So in this context, we cannot adopt the policy China adopted of devaluation. So what is devaluation? Devaluation means that the value of a particular currency is brought down by conscious efforts. Now, what will happen with case of India if we adopt devaluation? It means that the imports bill will further go up because the value of Indian rupee will reduce. So, it will not make any impact on Indian economy. Not only that, it will make a negative impact. So, China had focused on exports. So for exports, devaluation would be beneficial, but in case of a country which is highly import dependent, devaluation will have a negative impact by increasing the import bills. So what India can do in this context is to expand the capacity of export sectors. There are various sectors which has huge potential for exports. So the capacity of such sectors must be expanded, and thereby the export quantity from India should increase, so that when export increases, the current account deficit will narrow down. Now the second factor, low inflation. A moderate level of inflation is necessary in order to sustain growth levels. So when the inflation rate goes below the targeted percentage or range, this can have a negative impact on the economy. So these are the dual challenges for Indian economy. Now let us understand what is the way ahead for India. So we can divide it into supply side policies and demand side policies. First, the supply side policies. So supply side policies means that the focus of the government should be to ensure that there is higher growth rate in the sectors, and also there should be reduction of cost of production in the economy. So this is generally building of capacity of different sectors in the economy. So the government in this regard must focus on all the sectors including agriculture, industries and the services sector. So for the agricultural sector, government can provide targeted and limited direct benefit transfers to the farmers. To improve the productivity, policies can be adopted and policies that will help in marketing of the agricultural produce in order to ensure fair prices for the produce of the farmers, etc. can be initiated. And coming to the industries or the manufacturing sector, more focus must be given on export intensive sectors. That means those sectors which have huge potential for exports. Example is textiles industries, leather industry, etc. So these sectors have huge potential for exports. So government should utilize this potential of these sectors. So this can be done by improving their productivity. Government can provide fiscal stimulus in the form of tax rebates or other supporting policies, etc. in order to increase the productivity and thereby help them export their excess produce. And in the services sector, government must invest on export infrastructure, on logistics, skilling, technology development, ease of doing business, etc. So this will improve the exports from the country and also this will drive the demand in the economy, thereby increasing the demand pull inflation, which will increase the growth, and also exports will bring down the current account deficit of the economy. So these are the supply side policies. Now coming to the demand side policies, employment generation or creating enough job opportunities for the underemployed labor or the unemployed labor is very important. So this can raise the income levels of the families or the households, which will increase the demand in the economy. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page, and for any queries regarding your UPSC preparations, you can get in touch with me on my Facebook page or you can email me at joyce.studyiq@gmail.com. Thank you.